And we're live in Amazon Seller Tribe with another amazing seller interview today. And I really have a huge amount of appreciation for this young man sitting down with me this afternoon because we're so close to the Christmas holiday, and I don't know what days you celebrate or what if you guys do your gifts on Christmas Eve or how you do it. And but I know that it's getting to be a busy time, especially for young men with children. So, guys, welcome to the interview today. A guy that you've seen a lot of very thoughtful posts and a lot of encouraging posts from. And we're so glad that he's here, Mr. Nate Slusher himself from the beautiful town of
Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Grand Rapids, Michigan.
I think Matthew and I's businesses are like 2 miles from each other, probably.
Whose businesses?
Matthew Glopper. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, okay.
He's like 2 highway exits north. That's it.
Well, it just goes to show you that like attracts like. So we're happy to have Matthew in the group today too. So I always forget about Michigan. Is that the one that looks like the mitten?
Yep.
On the map? Okay. All right. So I haven't been, as you can probably tell, I haven't been up to those northern states there, but I intend to go someday, Lord willing. Well, Nate, frame us up a little bit what your life looks like there in Michigan. And excuse me, and then we'll get into how you got into Amazon Seller Tribe. Not everybody, has the 2 kids and 1 dog and that sort of thing. Or like Dan Earl last night I interviewed, he's a young man with unmarried and no children. So he's got a whole different situation, but you've got kind of a little passel of children up there, don't you? Let's talk about family first.
Yeah, so it's my wife and I, and then we've been married 15 years. I was trying to think, gonna say 16, but it's 15 and a half now. And then we have 4 kids. So my daughter will be 14 very soon, 11, 7, and 4.
Yeah, and little Cyrus is he is a cutie pie. Really is a cutie pie. So now you've got a 14-year-old, so you understand when I say that they are 14 going on 29 and they know everything, right? Yeah.
I will say for that age, she is exceptionally simple. I think that we have been very, very fortunate. Probably some of my wife's genetics coming through there that she's, we've been blessed.
That's nice. That's awfully nice. Well, you have an amazing wife too. Of course, I follow you guys on Facebook, and she is, I know, a joy to you because you always have spoken very highly of your wife, and I'm glad for that. Let's talk about what your life looks like in e-commerce, and you're a early guy. I mean, some of us came late to the dance, and you were kind of more on the front end of coming into e-commerce. So let's jump right in and talk about how you got in the e-commerce space. And did you come through eBay? Did you come straight to Amazon? Tell me what that looked like.
I wanted to own my own business, and I couldn't look somebody in the eye to save my life. I was very reserved in a certain sense, like from a selling standpoint. So I wanted to learn to sell. And so I worked like in a corrugated box. Most people would call it cardboard, but like a box production facility on like one of the presses that makes the machines. And then I sold insurance.
Interesting.
And my goal was I was going to sell insurance until I could make enough money to actually survive. Gotcha. And my wife, because I was failing miserably at the survival part, she pretty much started selling books on Amazon.
Gotcha.
In like late 06, 07 kind of thing. And then she asked, after just like a couple of months, she asked me to help her. And then we started trying to systematize things, and we're growing it to the point where, so right as this started growing, it almost like, I don't know if it just took the pressure off and I did better at insurance, but it got to where like I was just actually making enough money to survive selling insurance, and I had grown there. And so I did that simultaneously for 1 year.
Gotcha.
It would have been 2 years. We were full-time in 09. So 2 years we sold those and figured out kind of what we were doing. And then I quit selling insurance. No offense, Gary. Um, and then we went full time in Amazon. So we started selling in 2007, and then we've been full time since 2009.
Wow. So, I mean, really, guys, this guy has a lot of e-com experience. His time period on Amazon has been very much like Anitra and Nick Jumps. And as they did, he also started with selling books. Many of us started with just selling books around the house, or things that we had around the house, or we could get our hands on cheaply, clearance aisles and that sort of thing, just to begin experience selling. And when you say you started systematizing, that really is how your brain works, isn't it? That's one of your fortes.
Yeah, I like that kind of thing. I mean, I'm not like hardcore like some of the people probably in Tribe. I'm more like functionally systematic. Like at some point, the tedious details of like that last little 1%, I don't have any patience for it. But I like the types of things that I like to mess with are like on OA buying. I like looking at like what's the balance between volume of sales, ROI percentage, and like those kinds of things. And so tinkering through there, like how can we make it more efficient? Like the
Gotcha.
efficiency of my money basically is something that I really, really like.
Gotcha.
Whereas like tinkering with 12 printers and trying to figure out the best way, like that's the kind of thing where I need somebody else to do it. If it needs done, I'll have somebody else do it because I can't.
Right.
I just get frustrated.
Right. Gotcha. So one of the things that we talked about earlier today was numbers, and you were going through, and you're doing well. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, because I've got an important goal for this interview, but definitely let me come back to the numbers, if you will,
Fine.
in just a little bit. But I will say this, guys, for those of you who have folks whose brains work a little bit differently, Nate doesn't mind me saying that his brain works a little differently, and he would be what some people would call on the autism scale. I know that some of you in Amazon Seller Tribe have children or grandchildren that have been diagnosed that way. And I think we're seeing a lot more of those diagnoses, or maybe understanding of that. I told Nate earlier that I have a grandson that's been diagnosed, and he's Mr. Fact Man. He's just like Mr. Fact Man. He also, Nate, doesn't pick up on those emotional cues.
Mm-hmm.
So, if he comes in the room and people are crying, he doesn't empath first. He asks for facts. So he's like, you know, is not he doesn't, like, his little sister is opposite, and she's an empath. So she'll wait and she'll kind of see if, the information leaks out about why people are crying. But he comes in and is like, why is everybody crying? Well, it comes off sounding really harsh, but that's not how he is. He's got a great heart. And you can kind of relate to that because you're grinning, aren't you? You
Oh,
can.
I'm the amount of times with my kids, my wife is like, she's been extremely helpful for me, but she'll be like, hey, it seems like you're really, really mean when you're like, what's wrong? What happened? Like, and she's like, why don't you hug them first? If they don't have blood squirting out or bones protruding, why don't you start with a hug? And I'm like, but I need to know. I need to figure out what's okay. Like, and she's like, if there's no blood spraying, no bones visibly showing, start with a hug. And I was like, okay, I can do that.
Okay.
And so
All
it's
right.
still hard for me, like, what's wrong? What happened? And so I get.
It's a beautiful thing when you have somebody else to plug you into those kinds of things. I'm thinking of my youngest son too. He's geared, his brain is geared more like yours. And my children, my older children, their entire lives, they spent, what we call kind of cluing Jesse in. He's brilliant. He's got a genius level IQ, but he does have to be clued in. And so I understand that. But there's huge value also in brains that work like that, because you end up doing things very successfully. And let's get to your Amazon story, where you move from books into creating your own products. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, we accidentally, I would say, got into private label in like, it was 2011, early 2011. We made like our first orders. kind of in fall-ish of 2010. But we'd been selling like generic cell phone batteries for like Android replacement batteries, and branded them in 2011, and then grew that to right around 5 million in 20. I don't have the number, like the dates in front of me, like late 2014, 2015, you know, we were right around averaging about 500,000 a month in sales is where we were. And then
So
at that
hang
point,
on, before we get to the end, then let me just interject this. You got, as you said, accidentally into private label. You were in the right place at the right time with the right product. That's really what happened. And you also had the mojo to take advantage of the opportunity. That's a really key feature. You know, some people could see opportunity, but they won't take action on that. But you took massive action, didn't you?
to be honest, I think that a lot of times what people say is like massive action is actually just slow and steady. I mean, what we did was we were like, wow, we're selling all these batteries and we're getting nickel and dime to death. And there was like one other guy that was branding batteries, and we're like, oh, why couldn't we try that? And so we just started digging in. We tried like 5 suppliers, and you know, just ordered samples from them, tested them out, tried to cross check information with the people, just some real basic stuff of like, what would I do to totally not get ripped off by somebody that has a completely different culture than me? And
Right.
then we just sampled those items, and then we placed a small order with the one that we liked the best. And then we branded it with our own, just, you know, a sticker with a label on it, basically, that looked terrible. Our original, that is something I will tell people, like, you need to like good enough. There's a lot of times like the first product can be good enough. And I think that I had a couple of friends that tried to do this that were like freaking out over everything being perfect. And someone like Andy, I mean, he can afford to, like, he has the liberty because of his success
Right.
to be much closer
Right.
perfect on a launch.
Right.
Whereas like when you're new,
Right.
it needs to be good enough to not
Right.
kill someone, to not make you go bankrupt. Like it has to, there's like that line, and that's one of the things that I think we did well. Like, our logo was terrible, but it was good enough that people were like, you know, we did the other things right. We built the listings well. We were, you know, our competitors didn't have like professionally designed stuff. They weren't like, you know,
Right.
actually one of them was Anchor, which that's who we competed with. Anchor and 2 other people. The 2 other
Right.
people kind of went out of the business, and it was us and Anchor, and we beat them in our niche. That was all we didn't compete with them on, you know, battery packs and all the other things that they did, but on extended batteries, we would just consistently smoke them. And that was
Interesting.
kind of like our sense of pride. Like, you know, they're doing 50 times what we are, but we can beat them in our niche.
Gotcha.
And so we did that, and we just slowly improved it, and we lived off our regular business and just took all that money and just kept turning it back in and added, you know, new phone, new so we went from like 1 SKU in 2011, and it did well. It actually did better than we expected. And then we moved to where we had, I think it was 428 SKUs within the cell phone electronics category by mid 2014.
Wow. And this is when most of us were just waking up to the thought that there was such a thing as an Amazon. I think Andy started in 2013 or 2014. I started in 2014. Gary started in 2015. So, I mean, you know, he's already building a massive business on Amazon before any of the rest of us are waking up and finding out that there's an opportunity. And so the how the story plays out is that you all lived happily ever after, right?
Yeah, I think you got a different book than I lived.
Let's change books then, and let's get in the book that happened. And guys, as we move forward in this story, I've really asked Nate here for a very specific reason. I want each one of you to listen to what happened, and then you'll be able to hear wisdom. And there's a very important scripture that says that experience works hope. And, you know, this kind of experience that you have of building from zero on Amazon to now $5 million business it does, as time goes on, no matter what happens in the future, it does work hope that you could always do something like that again. But here you are really at the pinnacle of some beautiful success on Amazon. And what happens?
So I think what it was actually I'll say the source before I say what happened. I think there's a mix that like I grew up super broke. Like my dad taught at a local Christian college here. My mom, for the most part, stayed home and raised us, which I'm really grateful for. But like they did not have a lot of money. And so when I started making good money, it's like our margins on that stuff, I mean, they were good. They were really nice. And so like when you go in 2 years from making like I think in 2009 or 10, my gross like adjusted was like 19,000. When that was like, it was our first year with Amazon. It was really hard. I mean, I know that we wrote off a lot of stuff, but it was like,
Right.
that's how low it was.
Right.
And so when we moved to like a lot fast, I mean, our income went like almost 10 times the first year, and then it over doubled again the next year.
Wow.
And it's like, there's some point where being, just past mid 20s and having your income well beyond 10 times, there's some element of stupid that I think, at least in me, just spewed out. I mean, I was spending money like it was on fire when we should have been saving money like Scrooge in his money bin. I mean, that is really what we should have done. And so there was a mix of that in my personal life. But that mindset, I think, was also in the business. So there was a piece that was like, it was almost like breathing for the first time.
Right.
And so some of that was like, that impacted how I did business.
Right.
So we had a mix of like some foolish risks coupled with some major market changes. That was the summer, that year was when Samsung went to non-removable batteries. And so my entire business hit a wall. We had not diversified any. We had some cell phone cases, but we weren't really good at them. We had done some battery packs, but they were pretty low quality, like not like the kind that blow up all the time, but just not like the outside. We didn't do anything custom. We just taken like a generic product, mildly rebranded it, slapped it in a thing. And when your competition is Anchor, in that category, it was dumb. We really should have been spending a lot of time looking at different products, trying to analyze, like, can we get diverse within our niche, or should we be adding other niches, or, or should we be taking this money and moving it outside of Amazon, or, arbitrage was around that I basically arbitrage books, so I knew it was there. That should have been something that was a no-brainer,
Right.
even if it was hiring buyers. We
Right.
could have done it easy.
Right.
So we also financed growth with debt.
Gotcha.
And I'm not someone who's like psychotically hardcore against debt, but debt is like, it is definitely a two-edged sword. You can stab yourself right in the face like I did, or if you can use it targeted, you can, win a war.
Right.
And I was just,
you were young. You were inexperienced in business and in the area of business. You were young. And also money had suddenly just become easy. You had gone from money becoming very, very hard to money becoming very, very easy. And so those factors kind of combined to bring forth a perfect storm.
Yeah, we went in about an 18-month period. We went from like right around 500,000 a month in sales down to, I think our lowest was like 42 or 44,000 in a month. That was 18 months later.
Wow. And so at this point, are you doing CPR on your brand and, just staying totally focused, going, you're going to live no matter what? Or what are you thinking? What are you doing business wise?
We tried to pivot because we did just sit down and say, like, what can we do? So we kept adding we wanted to try to add other phones, like LG stayed having removable batteries. So we launched some, LG stuff. We still tried to participate with cell phone cases for Android phones. They did okay, but there was no home runs. Like, I think we could have gotten lucky and like been the drunk guy that hits a home run
Right, right,
if we had, had a product that really took off. But everything was just kind of like base hit, like a real boring, few sales
right.
every day. It was
Gotcha.
worth it, but it didn't do anything to like really, tilt the scale.
Right.
So we had a mix, then we pivoted into books pretty much right away because we're like, okay,
Yeah,
so we started
books.
buying pallets of books again. And, but the biggest issue is I didn't lay off my team fast enough. We had 16 team members here in the US.
Mm, mm, mm.
And we just decided I'm going to pay myself less. We cut our wages in like a quarter. I
Right.
sold my car. My brother had a brand new Shelby GT500 Mustang that
Ooh,
had been tricked out. It had like 700 horsepower. And right, a 23-year-old driving that also is a bad decision. I mean, he drove that
bad
thing
idea.
all the time. But so we sold off some of that stuff, and we didn't lay off our team, and we really only needed like 3 or 4 of them. And so we had basically, because I wasn't willing to make those expense cutting decisions
Right.
sooner, we really had like this slow bleed
Yeah, you started bleeding.
on our inventory. And so we weren't restocking to the proper levels because our operational expenses were too high. And so I think had we been willing to make those hard decisions and cut expenses, move out of our bit, we had like we had customed out a 6,000 square foot space, paint that matched all of our colors, the floor, it was beautiful. I mean, it was really nice. And so it was, it had like, we could pull our cars in. He and I like pulled the cars into the back of the warehouse, and they had their own spot. We had Olympic weightlifting set up, like a platform and a cage. It was beautiful. And
Oh,
like none of that was finance. Like we paid for all of those things, but it was
right.
still stupid. I mean, that should have been like a war chest basically, instead of like, but so we sold a lot of that stuff out, but we didn't lay off our team members.
Mm. And
And
labor can be a big expense. It
it
can be
was,
a great stepping stone to future success, but you're right, it could be a big expense, and you had to cut back to the bone, didn't you?
we were paying people like for a long time when we were still making good money, I was paying people to leave early. Like I'd still pay them for the full day just because I hated that feeling. Like that was actually the hardest thing to let go of. Like the
Right,
stuff is just stuff. Like it's just like
right,
throwing wood off the back of a ship for me. But like the
right,
people, that was hard. Like that was one of the
right.
hardest days of my life when we fired 12 people in one day,
Mm, mm,
and it was brutal. Like that was the weight of failure
mhm,
hit there, and then like I kept my wife in the loop the whole time, where we were, and she was
mhm.
incredible. Like if they sainted people in the Protestant church, she would definitely. I mean, she would be on the docket. But that was, I think, some of our biggest problem. We didn't cut our expenses, and then it just kept bleeding. So we got down to that point, and at that point, it was like, all right, so we are either filing bankruptcy or we're making drastic changes. And then we got the space that we're in now, which is only like, I think it was like $500 a month. That is one thing. I hear a lot of people talking about space, like posts all the time,
Right.
and like there are people, if you look for space, there is like this guy here, he needed a second shop, and so the whole office space he was basically giving away. No
Yeah.
utilities, no, the only thing I pay is internet. And then he had like the conference room space above. So like my space is split and it's not great, but my costs were, I mean, literally like 500 a month for almost 2,000
Wow.
square feet of space. And
Wow.
so it's like,
Wow.
I just went to my real estate agent, commercial agent. I was like, hey, I need somewhere cheap, but useful. Like talk to me. See
Right.
if you know somebody. And so
Right.
he did. He went to a bunch of his clients and he's like, hey, I got this guy, I think. And so like if you're looking at space, like
Hmm.
on my first space that I did, we found a guy that was like money was real tight and he had this extra little office that was, like 200 squares. And that's what we did. It was literally like $250 a month for my first space. So like
Good.
it's
Good.
the kind of thing like people ask a bunch of questions. I would recommend something like that. Like
Right.
it's very inexpensive. You don't have to, you
Right.
know. Anyways,
Yes.
so we switched to space.
Some people end up making those mistakes with personnel and with place. their space, and they get themselves locked into things too soon or too big, and it's not necessary. You can just grow into it. On the other hand, some people wait too long. So there is kind of a fine line there where you've got to grow, but you've got to make sure you can capitalize that growth. So when did you start saying, okay, so now we got to do a hard reset here. We've got to change, do something different. We're doing books, but even that is not going to be where we can really make this up. I've got a wife and 4 kids. I need to do something different.
So at that point, my brother and I, through all this, were partners. And we were gifted, which was extremely kind. And it actually made a huge difference in, I think, our survival. We were gifted basically all the fees to meet with a business turnaround specialist, a CPA who, companies all across, like up to, I think, even like 500 million. He has consulted on how they can, what's going on, like diagnosis, potential fix, and that kind of thing. And he basically forced me to do forensic accounting to get him all the stuff he needed it was almost 3 months of just get this, get that, put this together. I mean, it was pretty brutal to have to do, because some of it was so tedious, like working with our accountant to find all the stuff and then me figure out where it is. And he very purposely didn't answer questions very well. Like, so you had to dig for it, kind of a thing.
Gotcha.
It was tough. And
gotcha. Forcing you to look at your numbers, forcing you to look at that.
Yeah.
And to bring it out there, he's going to put that together and he's going to tell you a story. It's telling him a story easily. He's going to bring it back to you and show you what to do.
So he basically said that it was that inventory bleed over 18 months. He's like, I could have seen this 18 months ago and told you where you'd be right now. And I was like, well, that doesn't help me to know you could have seen it. Thanks. But, I think that was somewhere like right around 2016, by the time all that sorting had been done, like going into 2016-ish. And the same person who paid for that invested a chunk of money in to help save us, basically. And then my wife and I sold the house that we had lived in and put all of the equity into the business.
Gotcha.
And that was a decision. Basically, the guy he has done business turnarounds for 2 decades. And so he's like, I know this is a huge risk. Some people would say not to do it. I can tell you that if this was me, this is what I would do. You put all this money in and you can stabilize your business. He's like, I'm not telling you will grow to the moon, but you can stabilize.
Gotcha.
And so that's what we did. So we stabilized like between maybe 900,000 and 1.2 million. That's where we were on and off from 16, 17, 18, and then 19.
Gotcha.
And I bought my brother out. I think it's been 2 years now. So it would have been fall, like almost this time in 2018. I might be wrong. Maybe it's 2019. No, it has to have been 2018. I think it's been 2 years.
So you more or less went through 2019 by yourself.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. And so we were still trying to tweak and be more efficient and do things, but the fee structure in the books category, media category, is prohibitive. I mean, it's from when I started selling there, I think the fees are close to 60% higher.
Wow.
And over the last 2 or 3 years, it's moved up like that 20 or 30% again.
Mm-hmm.
And some of that, like we had one of our book wholesalers for like Hertz. He's friends with some of the leadership guys at Amazon, and like their public stance on why the fees are going up is very different than his private stance.
Interesting.
And a lot of it is basically
enlighten us.
Well, a lot of their concern is everyone who wants to start selling on Amazon is like, oh, I'll sell books.
Right.
So they get a lot, like the customer experience was suffering.
Interesting.
So their goal was to make it a little harder for people just to get on there, like fly by night. They don't know how to pack. They don't know how to prep. They don't like in the tribe, people aren't doing this. Right. But somebody just starts like, this will work. And they try it. And it's, the book comes damaged. It wasn't sealed. It wasn't padded. It wasn't any of those things. And so their user experience was suffering. So basically they're trying to make the bar a little higher.
They're weeding out the people who are just dipping their toe in the pool, right?
But it
They're just weeding
slowly
them
shaved
out.
off our suppliers. So we'd have 6 suppliers that we could buy skids from, but then this one got priced out and this one got priced out. And so that's slowly getting worse.
Interesting.
And so in 2019, like the fall of 2019, my brother actually turned me on. He's like, hey, I think you should check out arbitrage. We had been part of Andy's Amazing Freedom Group for quite a while.
Right, right.
And I think at some point he joined Tribe, like to look at it, but I wasn't paying any attention at all to that. And then I bought my first OARA anything, like I think it was like 5 or 6 days ago last year, this time.
Yeah,
Like
interesting.
12, December 15, between then and December 20. And we were tinkering around with it. I was trying to figure out, like, I wasn't going through Tribe or anything, but I was trying to just track metrics, figure out I was on a couple lists. I was using tactile arbitrage and just figuring out, what do I think about this? What is, building effectively my own rules. And then I was like, I remember Tribe, let me check it out. And I started like watching some stuff, and it helped some. So I was like, all right, I'm going to do these things. And I just did them. And I do think that gave me an advantage in Tribe 4, actually, by the time that I did it. I'm jumping ahead. I'll go back.
Yeah,
But
exactly. Yeah.
I think understanding,
Right.
like, honestly, how hard it is, how many
Right.
obstacles, like how many roadblocks there are, and having to work through a bunch of them,
Right.
made the information in Tribe 4, like,
More relevant to
it
you.
was amazing. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
And that's, the value proposition on Tribe coaching. This is just a side promo, free commercial. It's like a YouTube ad. It just cuts in.
Go ahead.
No, it's borderline stupid. It's that good. I mean, it is. I almost feel bad sometimes. I feel like I got so much value out of Tribe that it's like,
You feel so bad you want to just give us more money. Go ahead, Nate.
No,
Okay, go ahead.
most programs, like, you justify it after you're done. You're like, yeah, I made money, or I did this, but you still in the back of your mind, like, this is at least me. I paid for stock courses, real estate courses, marketing courses. Like, I paid for a number of things. Most of them, like, I probably got my monies back, or I did good, but you're still always, like, in the back of your head, you're like, you have this little itch that you have to justify the expense.
Yeah. Did
like,
I get
I paid
taken or not?
13 grand for this real estate class, and it was good, but man, really? Woo! And it's the complete opposite with Tribe. Like, I still sit there sometimes, and I'm not asking you to raise your price, please. I know that you guys price at as low of an entry point as you can for new sellers, and I get that, and I really appreciate it.
Right.
But if someone is considering it, I would just, if you could see me with my camera, I would get down and just plead with you. Do it. You will not regret it. If you don't do anything with it, you will. But if you actually pay attention and take any action, it will be worth your time. All right, so back to the story. It's commercial over.
Thank you. Thank you for that commercial. I appreciate that. Gary, I hope you're listening, because your coaching program has a great fan over here. Of course, many great fans, but this is another great fan. And we're about to hear why in just a few minutes. So stick with us, guys, because you're about to hear why. Anyway, go ahead. We're talking about rebuilding.
Yeah, so when COVID hit, we were selling books. And we had probably like, I think I looked at Inventory Lab. We were like 6-7% of any arbitrage, OARA, that was it. We were like 2% private label, and then all the rest was books. And when the COVID shutdowns hit and Amazon stopped shipping non-essential goods, we literally went to 0 sales.
Right.
And so thankfully,
you got your legs swept out from under you. Many sellers did. They're like, what? Now what? Pivot.
Thankfully, had literally the week before it shut down, in God's providential timing here was very kind. I had 3 pallets of books arrive. And so I was able to merchant fulfill those and basically just restock some of that sales volume. It got to like maybe 60% of what would be normal, which was enough to survive with some of the, different like deferments and things that we had, like from our, from expenses. Like we didn't have to pay a lot of our bills because they deferred them 60 days, and that kind of thing, like our inventory suppliers and stuff.
Gotcha.
But then the real cool change for us, right before Tribe, I qualified for the Paycheck Protection Plan,
Right. Right.
and I basically took all of my payroll expense because my suppliers were willing to defer. They just basically like, we're not accepting any payments
Gotcha.
due for an extra. We're giving you an extra 60 days terms.
Nice.
I was basically able to take my weekly payroll amount and invest that in OARA.
Nice. Nice.
And so it was just me buying at this point. I was mostly using tactical arbitrage, and we just really started to accelerate. I mean, but from 5%, that's not, I mean, accelerating is a relative term. I could
But
double
still,
it, and it's
yes.
still,
Yeah.
only.
You've pivoted and now you're accelerating. Yes, you've
And
changed.
then we joined Tribe.
You joined the Tribe 4 coaching round.
Tribe 4 coaching. Yep.
Let's see. Right here. Right here. I think your name is right here. Yep. Where are you? You're somewhere in here. You're in the S's.
It's on there. It's fine. I know it's there. Don't worry.
You've already had your picture taken with it.
And then, so the information, like I had just started, I'd up my activity level in that arena. And that was like, so April was a hard shutdown. We got our PPP money like in May.
Right.
And so like I'd just done enough to establish a rhythm.
Right.
And then Tribe for Coaching hit. And the efficiency of what we were doing went up exponentially. I mean, it was I can't even say what I use because I know that's like, it'll kind of take away from Tribe, but it's like our ability to be effective, the multiplier on it was extreme. And that actually wasn't the most important thing that came out of Tribe for Coaching. Something about Gary's talks
Right.
helped me realize that, like, in struggling to not go bankrupt and to survive for 4 years straight,
Right.
there's a piece of like, almost like you could say it like, this sounds arrogant, but like, the swagger, like you had the confidence that you have.
Yeah. Sure.
There's a subtle thing that like, when it doesn't, like, there's not a one-time hit.
Right.
You can almost lose something. It's almost like a guy that had a little hole in his purse and was losing money on it slowly, but it was a real big purse and he didn't realize it. And the weight kind of, it goes down so slow that you don't even notice that the purse is emptying out. And then you get to the point where someone challenges you in a way that you realize, like, you've lost a step. And they do it in a way that's like building you up, not like,
Right.
It's not just like a kick in the nuts kind of thing.
Right.
Sometimes you need that.
Right.
But
he caused you, his sessions are so powerful because they cause you to ask hard questions, but he doesn't do it in an abrasive or harsh manner. It really does, almost like the word of God, where it comes in and it divides, it kind of opens you up where you're like, wait, what am I looking at now? How should I look at this? Your confidence had been shattered, really had been shattered. And you're having to go through a personal rebuilding process as well as a business rebuilding process.
Yeah. And so that was, I'll be honest and say, I think that was significantly more important than any of the business information. But that just allowed us to accelerate basically into the fall. I mean, moving forward, the meetup was super. I mean, except for the part where I had to get up on stage, I feel bad.
He's referring to the Kentucky meetup that we had, which is, as far as we know, the largest live Amazon seller event in the world, in-person seller event in the world, which we had down at Gary's and his wife's house in Kentucky, and then at the Corvette Museum of Bowling Green. And Nate, I want to tell you how much, and I really have done a disservice to your wife, because there's probably been a half dozen times since the Kentucky meetup that I wanted to message her and say to her how proud she would have been of you when we kind of started hearing about we heard about your story, and then we kind of just grabbed you and threw you up on stage and handed you a microphone and asked you to share, because we were we were already kind of hearing rumblings from different sellers that we know, had been putting up some big numbers, but we felt like we're about to put their feet in a snare. And we really felt like um, you're speaking openly and honestly to them could help them avoid that. And you were so kind and courteous to do that. Generous, I would say, generous from the heart, to humble yourself and say, instead of just swaggering in there and going, yeah, yeah, I know how to do this. I've been selling since whatever. You were so humble, and then you were so honest when you spoke, that it really was a mic drop moment. And I've wanted to say that to your wife. I need to type that out and say that to your wife, because you gave her a lot of credit for riding through the hard times with you, and never once beating you up or accusing you, or what some wives might do, which is like, what the heck have you done to us? She has been a builder and a rebuilder too, hasn't she?
She's amazing. I Yeah, I'm really grateful that the Lord brought us together.
So now
She'll
you're
hear you, by the way. She wanted to watch this later. I told her she can watch it once it's live, as long as I don't have to watch it with her.
Oh, good. Okay, good, good, good. Well, maybe she's on now. Maybe she's seeing it on Facebook. Well, so now you've come, really, I mean, like a phoenix coming from the ashes. Here you are, and now you're in a whole different model. You're not PL anymore. Well, you started with books, you go to PL, you go back to books, but now you pivot into online arbitrage, retail arbitrage, which is the model that we teach in Amazon Seller Tribe and then grow from. Many people go on in wholesale or closeouts, or even mix with PL. We have several who have a mixture of PL in their arbitrage. And Tribe 4 coaching opens in July. And all of a sudden, the trajectory of your business changes in a beautiful way. So tell me, if you will, if you please, from July, more or less, July to today, what has happened in your business sales?
That's what I was just pulling up. I figured you were getting ready to ask that. So I actually grabbed my phone to just pull it up on the app really fast and
Give me
see.
the exact numbers, Nate. Give me the
No,
exact numbers, because I want to do my dance, my special hallelujah dance.
so like our sales, we were probably only averaging like 75,000 a month in sales. My numbers look very different than most Tribe people. Like I see people like, or I'll hear people that say like, oh man, I haven't slept in like 3 months. And it's like, I'm obsessive about balance. So
Right.
like when people are like, I'm telling my employees, like, it's done for the day. I don't care if there's 50 boxes there. Like God got us here. He will get us to tomorrow. Like
Right.
shut your mouth, go home. Like that is, I mean, we are like that. And
That's
I start nicer than that. But if they don't listen, I get to that point. But it's like, I mean, I'm really big on that. Like it's
important.
people matter more than this.
You've already blown out you've already gone in the fast car. So
But
you
again, I think it's really important that people remember that, because like nobody ever died. Like no one was 70 years old sitting in a 70 is probably too young for sitting in a home. 90 years old sitting in a rest home and was sitting there going like, gosh, I wish I'd skipped one more thing, so that I could grow that business. I missed that X number. And it's like, those are not the things people are missing. Like
Right.
you can grow a business and work your butt off while still having human relationships.
Right.
Good spot. Like you can have
Right.
like, and so like, and I'm saying that as somebody that worked 2 jobs and had a business on the side. Like
Right.
I'm not saying that as somebody who like you know, just
Right.
has always had like a cake life. But you
Right.
can like you value the things that need valued
That's right.
regardless. And
That's
so
right.
like I don't have like I kind of build that into our how we try to structure what we do. Like I
Gotcha.
don't, you know, it's not like one big day. It's like we have X numbers per week, and I have a little bonus structure built for my employees that like if they can maintain this min level, you know, I know that that will keep our sales steady.
That's
And
it.
so then we have like it's like steady, steady little surge,
Right.
and so it's like so we
You
were
build it,
averaging like
you
right
build it
around
for a
maybe
lifetime.
75,000 a month
Right.
up through June. And then my just the July number. When does Triforce start? It was like mid-July,
It
right?
was in July. Yeah. It was in
So
July.
even with mid-July, wow, the time I wanted to go fast. All right. So July we were like 130,000. So we went from, you know, 75, like a steady 75 to right around 130. And then our best, you know, I almost feel like I'm missing the boat. Like I see some of these sellers that are like double in December. I'm like, I'm happy for them, but there's a piece of me that's like, man, how much meat did I leave on this bone? Like, geez, Louise. Because like our, you know, so like our December is probably going to be like 220, and so we're looking at like 165 for November. But that's all we went up. It was like 50% increase over a month before,
Yeah.
and I was like,
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
some of these guys are double. What am I doing?
Perfect. That's beautiful.
But
So
that's
let
and
me
that's
ask
kind of
you this. Where are you right now?
for
What's
what
happened for what is your 12-month or your year to date, whichever one you're
we're
tracking?
like. I think we're 1.57 million right now is where we're at.
Boom. Out of the ashes, guys. Out of the ashes. This is the guy that doesn't quit. This is the guy that doesn't quit. One of the things he said in Kentucky that still sticks with me, I said to him, "How come you didn't quit, Nate?" And what did you say, Nate?
I've heard it now so many times that I can't forget what I said. Um, I just said, what else is there to do? And I mean, I still have kids that want to eat. I still have, I mean, I'm not like ready to die, so I have to do some. I'll be honest, like I said that mostly because I don't really relate to that question.
Right,
Like you
right.
either have to give up and crawl in a hole,
Come
or you
on.
get up and do it. I mean, I feel like people are making a lot out of something that kind of just felt like it's like saying like, what do you do next? Well, you breathe. Like that's what I have to do. I have to keep breathing. I have to keep living. Like I don't really know what other option there is. So it just feels funny that it
What
connects people though.
it was comical and it was profound. The reason that it was comical is because it was a moment where I mean, the way you said it was comical, what other choice do I have, you know? But it was profound because there's too many of us live trying to grow a business, but we live it emotionally. And Nate's brain can kind of take some of that emotion out of us, out of it. He's like, what are the choice do I have? I have kids that want to eat. I have bills to pay. What a choice I have. I don't quit because I didn't give myself any other choice. And I didn't fall into an emotional hole. I just came back up. I pivoted and I started building again. And this man has built a mighty business. Now the foundations are so beautifully set. And he really, really has shown us a lot of what can be beautiful in spite of the challenges. If you're out there listening to this right now, or you hear this as a replay later, and you're saying, I've just been like this roller coaster all year because Amazon changed this or Amazon did this, and you need to just take a page from Nate. What other choice do I have? Just that's why in Amazon Seller Tribe, we don't get off track on all of the, oh, woe is me, or oh, Amazon did this, or oh, Amazon did that, and let's all throw rocks at Amazon. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We don't blow smoke about stuff we can't change. It just wastes your time. It wastes your energy. It depletes you emotionally. You don't need that. Just deal with the facts and move on. Right, Nate?
I guess, yeah. I mean,
Nate, I'm so proud of you. 1.5 million, more or less pivoting, changing horses in the middle of the stream, so to speak, when Amazon handed you, a pink ticket, shut down. Sorry, books aren't essential. You pivoted, you changed what you were doing. You dug in there in tribe coaching. Gary probably is more proud of you than just about any one of the students, because you really, really get it. You got it. You let, I told Gary before he did the Tribe 4 sessions, he said, some of what I'm going to say is the same as what I said in Tribe 3. And I said, Gary, it's so important for you to say that again, and say it with the way you say it, the heart you say it with, the voice that you speak with, the method that you use, because it will unlock the hearts and minds of people, and they'll begin to see themselves differently, and they'll begin to make different business decisions than they did before. And you have proven our point over and over again.
you are correct on that. So don't ever let him argue his way out of it. I mean, it really makes the Tribe 4 coaching have 2 layers.
Yeah.
And it, like, people try to like undervalue emotion.
Right.
But it's the human experience. And there's a number of like applied psychology books that will like verify this, that like when you take the emotional ability out of people, they literally can't make any decisions. So like logic is not what, like, people brag about how logical they are, and they're mostly just liars. Like, we are all this mix.
Right.
And I think that those elements of Gary's talk, it's like it almost creates a handshake between both sides of your brain.
Wow.
And I think that
Wow.
for Gary, what it does with Tribe, and this is just me trying to think through Tribe. So I mean, I'm not like a genius or anything, but this is how I look at it. Like, that gateway to the facts is created by his talks. Like, yes, there's reasoning, and yes, there's logic, and yes, he appeals.
Boom. Gary Ray, if you're not on here listening to this right now, I'm going to walk to Kentucky and put you on this right now. Listen to what this man is saying. Create a handshake between 2 sides of the brain. It's the gateway to the facts. Come on, Nate. Oh my gosh. Keep preaching. You're preaching good, boy. Keep preaching.
Just for what it's worth, I hope that helps him. But I think that I really think that it's a multiplying effect on everything that's taught. I mean, because it's very helpful. And there's new people every time. I mean, you see people posting through, I mean, and if anyone listens to me, I'm begging all the time for them to do it. And I don't even get paid. It's not like I get anything out of it except seeing more people succeed.
Boom.
And I think the momentum of the team, obviously, you look at Tribe right now and it's like, I mean, you have no pulse if you're not at least encouraged by seeing just boom, 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 new milestones. Like, I love it. Like, it's funny to see people like scared to share small numbers, and it's every person hit those numbers. Like, I remember $1,000 in a month. Like, man, I remember, like, my wife and I were so excited when we hit $1,000. You would have thought we'd won the lottery. And so, like, it was, we hit every peg, 1,000, 2,000, 2,500. You got to make that extra one in there because it's halfway to 5,000.
Right.
And it's, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, and so all of the annual numbers too, like, every one of those things, they build your personal confidence, and you need to hit those milestones. It's like with your family. Like, we do that same thing. Like, why do we create milestones on birthdays or, religious events? Like, those are, I'm not comparing selling to a religious event, but regardless, like, those milestones matter. And if you can have the courage to let somebody like celebrate with you,
come on,
it's part of like the human experience. Like, that's the magic, like why encouragement works. Like my wife and I have worked a lot on me learning what encouragement is. Cause like I have zero need. I'm telling you, like negative percentage of encouragement. Like if she tells me something I did wrong, I am like, yes, thank you so much. And she's like, why are you excited? You should be mad, defensive. And it's like, there's nothing more exciting for me than realizing like I am desperately in love with that woman, like just desperately in love with her. And when she tells me something that I can do better, like that's exciting because it's easy to change when you know what it is. Like do the dishes more. Great. I will become the best dishwasher in this zip code. It's easy. Like it makes things so much easier. Like, so I don't relate at all to that. But like she basically explained to me what encouragement was. And she'll laugh when she sees this. Like I said to her, so you're telling me that encouragement is saying an obvious good thing about someone back to them. I was like, I almost feel like it's condescending, like patronizing. Like I wouldn't say what she calls encouragement because it feels patronizing. Like, I was worried she'd be offended, like, duh, I'm a good mom. Like, because to me, it's so obvious that she is an amazing mother. And she's like, no, people aren't like, that's not normal.
Right.
People doubt themselves all the time. And so I'm like, okay. So like you open the door for people to encourage you. And you deserve it. Like you hit 1,000 in sales, you hit 5,000, you hit some yearly number. I don't care how small it is. Like if it's a milestone in your mind, share it.
Come on.
Again, I don't know if anyone else needs that, but those are things that like it's loving to the team and to them. Like that's something that like
that's it. That's
rant
it.
over. Sorry.
It's a beautiful rant. I'm going to get you to rant all the time. I really am. I'm going to get you to rant all the time. A beautiful rant. Well said. And really the heart of what we try to do in Amazon Seller Tribe. It's so important, as he says, to celebrate your milestones. And today we are thrilled to celebrate a $1.5 million milestone with this guy who has pivoted, who has come from the top and fallen down to the on his back going, now what do I do? And he stood back up, pivoted his business, and now 1.5 million. I cannot wait to see the rest of your story, to watch the rest of your story, both in your personal life and in your business life, to watch your story. I am so thrilled, Nate. I don't know how we got you. I mean, I don't know what words you heard on another video or a podcast or whatever that made you say, really, I do need to join Amazon Seller Tribe. But I want to thank you for listening to that, whatever it was, because you really do what?
It was my brother.
It was your brother. Thank God. I'm going to kiss him. I don't even know him, but I'm going to kiss him and tell him thank you for bringing us this guy. We love and appreciate you so much. You bring such freshness, honesty, humility, and passion for your family and for growing your business. Wow. I don't know if I should cry or throw the confetti. I can't tell here, Nate. I really can't. I am so proud of you. So proud of you and so glad that you're on this journey with us in Amazon Seller Tribe. We're seeing numbers after numbers. We're seeing screenshots after screenshots of people who are doing things that they never thought that they could do or would do. And for you to come on here today, take this precious time and tell us your story, reach beyond that meetup in Kentucky when many of us heard and were stunned when you spoke, and now reach into the full members of Amazon Seller Tribe and hopefully beyond. Speak the way that you did today. It's been a great blessing. Bethany, if you're listening, I want you to give this boy a really, really good hug and a kiss and remind him that he is a gift from God to Amazon Seller Tribe. Nate, is there anything you would like to say before we end the webinar today? Anyone you want to speak to that's on your mind or your heart in Amazon Seller Tribe or out there in the seller space?
Not really. I don't think I mean, you ended it so good. Like I was just sitting here thinking like, man, she looks like dead on at the camera. It's like she's talking to you and like,
Talking to you, and I'm talking to your wife. And
but
I'm
no, thank you.
talking,
I really appreciated it. And I'm really grateful to be a part of the team that you guys have created. I'm very thankful to all of, I mean, the Slammons and you and Gary, and you guys have done a really good job.
well, thank you for that. And we appreciate your prayers as we move forward to serve as many people as possible. Andy's vision is that we're going to help 1,000 people get to $1 million in sales and beyond. Of
That's awesome.
course, during that period of time, you'll be well into your tens of millions and you'll be rejoicing. I know your heart, you'll be rejoicing with many of these newer people in Amazon Seller Tribe. We love you. Merry Christmas to you at the Slusher household. And I hope Santa brings you something nice.
Thanks. You too.
Bye-bye.
See ya.